The city of Bengaluru, which has had the highest number of active cases during the deadly second wave, is racing to vaccinate now a substantial percentage of its population ahead of the third wave. And in this, private participation in the drive is playing a big role. One of the private platforms is ACT Grants from the startup ecosystem, which is working with the BBMP to vaccinate as many people as possible. The ACT co-founder Prashant Prakash told NDTV that ACT Grants started in the first wave as a coalition of startups.
Mr. Prakash, what is ACT Grants? What is it all about? Where is it from?
Maya, ACT Grants started off in the first wave as a coalition of startups. And the idea was, can startups come together and bring the speed and the execution capabilities to fight the pandemic. And in the most recent second wave, we first started out with oxygenation, which was the biggest challenge. We were able to mobilize 45,000 plus concentrators and cylinders across the country. Then we moved to home care, and more recently we've been focusing on vaccination. The idea behind ACT Grants is, can you bring together civil society, NGOs, other foundations, and work closely with the government to solve huge challenges much more faster than what any of us individually. So it's a collective approach to fighting huge challenges in a very short period of time.
A collective approach, always very valuable. What is your involvement when it comes to vaccination in the city of Bengaluru?
Yeah, so when we shifted around middle of May, we started to see that we had done almost all we could when it comes to oxygenation, and the real long-term solution was vaccination. So we said, what could we do there? And we wanted to pilot it in a city, and Bangalore seemed to be a great city to pilot our strategy. Our strategy was, can we put together kind of a coalition, a community vaccination coalition that brought together the local government, the BBMP in this case, a lot of startups and other corporates, and Bangalore has a large health provider ecosystem and other NGOs. Could we bring all of them together, put together a prioritization framework, because there was a shortage of vaccines? Can we build a fair and equitable way of allocating these vaccines? So we put together a kind of a steering committee comprised of Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, Irina Vittal, and Gagandeep Kang, and they gave us a very, very detailed approach to how we could go about prioritizing and making sure that the short supply of vaccines did not hinder the effectiveness of what we could achieve with this limited supply.
How does this happen practically? Do you do the vaccination through camps? And who actually decides what camp should happen and where?
Yeah, so just kind of delving into the little bit of the details of this prioritization approach, we have a two-level prioritization that one is, we kind of divided Bengaluru into multiple zones. Yeah, Maya, very impertinent question, because when we started out, none of us had the expertise within ACT to go about this fair and equitable distribution of this limited supply. So we put together this steering group comprised of experts such as Gagandeep Kang, Irina Vittal, and Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw. And what they gave us is two aspects, right? One, can you focus on low income, high dense kind of areas, and also high occupational risk groups. So and then once we had that high level strategy, then we said, it makes sense. How do we then go about distributing across a very large city like Bangalore? We divided Bangalore. Bangalore naturally has a division of 7 to 8 zones. So we said, within these zones, can we pick the more dense wards initially? And even within those wards, can we pick the high-income housing or the markets, the denser markets first? So that's how we went about distributing it. But yeah, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Where are all these vaccines coming from? Who actually pays for them?
So this is where the whole philanthropy comes into the picture. I think Bangalore is known to be a city where you have a lot of new generation of philanthropists. The startups themselves have been influenced by these individuals, and they have a very open mind in giving. So we started this program called Vaccinate and Donate, where some of the larger companies that had frontline workers like Swiggy, Amazon, Flipkart, Big Basket, they wanted their frontline to be vaccinated. And we did that in just 2 to 3 weeks period between middle of May and first week of June. But they not only paid for vaccinating their employees and their frontline, but they also donated a lot of vaccines to the unorganized frontline. Which I just spoke about, the high density housing. So a lot of the vaccines came from donations from these startups and other corporations, and also foundations. Foundations also started to see our ability to execute on the ground. We were at a given point in time running as many as 7, 8, 9, 10 camps a day with 1,000 to 2,000 people. Identified, prioritized people coming to these camps, which is not easy. So that's when we had the foundations also partner with us.
What are the vaccination targets like? And is there enough vaccine to achieve these targets?
I think this strategy that we have designed here in Bangalore of pooling both private and government vaccines, I think just gives us that much more leverage. Yes, vaccines are starting to ease up in the last 2 weeks. I mean, just to give you some high-level numbers, Bangalore has roughly about 95, 99 lakh people who need to be vaccinated. Like you mentioned, we are up to 50 lakh plus people. So our goal is that before August 15th or early August, can we get 90% to 95% of everybody vaccinated. So we need another 3 to 4 lakh vaccines over the next 45 days to couple months. And I think with this coalition plus the government supply of vaccines, we believe we'll be able to get there.
What are the challenges that you have been facing on the ground? Does everybody come forward to get their shots easily?
I think this is going to be the challenge. I think we'll get to about 70-75 lakh people is our sense. But I think the last 20-30%, I think there is going to be the hesitancy issue that we'll have to tackle with. And we are kind of shifting gears now. We are starting to prepare a two-level strategy there. One is we need to provide a little bit of an air cover kind of campaign, bring in celebrities, bring in media partners, and other community leaders, and have them use television and radio and all other channels. But what's more important is we need to have a ground level mechanism to actually fight hesitancy at a demographic by demographic, group by group mechanism. And that's, so we are starting to develop that content. We are also putting together a content hub that can be used by multiple groups. So I think ACT can kind of democratize this content, which can be used by different people. Even if we don't execute on all the hesitancy management, we would like other NGOs and other partners to be able to use the content that we come up with. So our strategy now is in the next 2 to 3 weeks, start looking at religious biases, start looking at fake news, misinformation, and have specific local level, micro geography level strategies to be able to tackle that. And we think that's really important to cover the last 15-20 lakh people in the city.
And a final question that could also really be the first question. Why do all of you do all this? You're all busy with your day jobs. Why did you feel you had to get involved this way?
I think the startup community has been wanting to do something in the philanthropic space, but I don't think they had a platform, they had a vehicle. And I think with ACT, they found a platform in which they could come together. So it was almost like there was a big pent-up demand within the startup community of wanting to give. So I think all that ACT did was kind of provide that platform so that startups can come together and start to use their capabilities of speed and monetary wealth, their monetary wealth and fundraising capabilities, which they're really good at, to bring high leverage impact in the shortest period of time.
A very valuable platform indeed for helping other people. Mr. Prashant Prakash, thank you very much for joining us today on NDTV.